I want to welcome everybody for joining us today on the CMO Scoop. I'm your host, Laura August. I'm the CEO of Robot Creative. We have worked with thousands of what we call very large small businesses, and we write marketing plans and provide marketing leadership to companies on a part-time basis. Those consultants are called fractional CMOs, or like part-time chief marketing officers. We have a team of talented directors and a growing network of CMOs that we place with our clients. And each of our experts brings their unique background and perspective to the table, and I wanted to take advantage of that. So every month, I'll be having a conversation with one of our team members or CMOs, and we cover topics and recurring themes that we see in these types of businesses that we work with. So today, my guest is Jovana CARY Dominguez. She is the social media manager here at Robot Creative. And today we're going to be talking about social media, specifically reviving dead accounts. So let's dive in. Jovana, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to talk social media with you as always.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. First time. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited to be here with you guys as well.
Yeah, we'll just have a conversation and it'll be super easy. So Jovana, let's just dig in first. You have an incredible background in social media management and strategy. Can you share some of the highlights of your experience, like the types of environments you've worked in, the types of background that you have?
Yeah, so I have almost 10 years of experience in social media. I live and breathe it, love social, and I have worked in agencies, I've worked in-house, I've worked across many different industries and sizes of businesses. I've done everything from small coffee trucks to really large Fortune 500 companies and really large big box stores. And just very varied experience throughout all the years that I've been doing social, and it's just no matter what, it's been fun. So a lot of time now.
I love it. And now you've had the pleasure of working in some environments where there's whole social teams, where there's lots of different social media people doing different roles. So within that, could you just kind of give us the lay of the land? What are some of those different roles, and what is your favorite role to play?
Oh gosh, I've worked in teams that were a social media team of 20 people, very large, and we were all servicing just one client. And so everything from just a person that was in charge of answering questions and FAQs and things like that, to a team that had several graphic designers doing graphic design for just TikTok and doing graphic design just for Instagram. But for me, my favorite has been doing the content creation, developing content, and working with creators now that that's been something emerging in the space.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, we're so glad to be able to tap into your expertise and to help our listeners out with dead social accounts. We see this, unfortunately, all the time. So we'll walk into a situation where a client has maybe, set up accounts. Maybe they've set up back when it was a Twitter, they set up a Twitter account and now they just don't like using it. Maybe they had an Instagram account and they lost access to it. I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons that we see dead accounts, sometimes just not posting, but let's talk about why those accounts should not be left to rot. Why can't we just leave them there? What does that mean?
Your social media accounts, whether we like it or not, signify a lot of things to potential clients and consumers online. Sometimes if, they come across a dead social account that maybe hasn't been posted on for over a year or a couple of months, they think maybe your brand is also dead. Maybe they're not in business anymore. Maybe they don't sell those products anymore. So that's one thing they can glean from that. Another thing they can glean is maybe you aren't open to engaging with customers. You're kind of closed off from the world. You're not really welcoming. You don't really want to answer questions, things like that. And there's just a lot of assumptions that the consumer or just users online can make about you and your brand and your business if you're not in charge of that narrative on your social.
That makes sense. So You don't want to look closed off from the world. You don't want your customers to wonder whether you're like alive and open or not. They're just this great second reference for what you do. And lots of people do go to check out social accounts. So you don't want to leave people in the dark. And one thing that we've noticed a lot too is that for some clients that approach us that for a totally different reason, they're approaching us for to improve their hiring or their recruiting, to attract employees. And one of the first things we do is go look at an overall audit of like the website and the brand and what kind of message they're putting out into the world, their careers page, their about us page. But like the social accounts are so important. And so many people look at them for examples of culture and what's going on. So if you're in a business or industry where you have continual hiring needs or challenges hiring, it's definitely also something to think about.
For sure. Yeah, you'll hear a lot about that. Someone, they're going to go work at a computer store, but they're not sure if they should take the role. And they go on the computer store's Instagram or their TikTok, and they're like, oh, there's not anything really there. But this other company I applied with, like their stuff is very lively and they're showing their culture almost every day on Instagram. And so
it looks fun.
It looks fun and it turns into an easy choice for them.
Absolutely. I think employees and really consumers have come to expect more from brands, I think, at this point. Yeah. So, again, I kind of mentioned access can be an issue. If you have dead accounts, you might lose access to those platforms, especially if you have like employees or people within the business. Maybe somebody set the social accounts up for you as the owner, and then that person is no longer there, or somebody used a personal account to set them up. There's a lot of different reasons you might lose access to them, and that's a problem that we see all the time. And sometimes, we try. Sometimes we can regain access, but not always. So dead accounts, like most of the time, unfortunately, you aren't going to know what you're missing. Maybe people will message you and say, hey, are you still in business or are you still open? But a lot of times when there's dead accounts, people are just going to assume that the company is dead. And so you probably don't want that. So if there are people who have joined us, who are listening, who have dead accounts, like Jovana, where do they start? I know you've mentioned evaluating, first of all, like what you do have to work with. Like, how do you review your accounts? What are you looking for?
Yeah, so I've definitely dealt with clients in the past that they maybe hadn't even touched their socials in years, like a year or two. And they weren't the ones who started it. And they didn't really know what was going on with it. They just knew that it was something on their list that they needed to check off, like what's going on with social, what's happening there. And so one of the first things I suggest is definitely figuring out which handles you own. There might be a handle that you don't even know that you have. Some brands, like everyone started TikTok when it got really popular and then they never posted on it. And that is good advice to grab a handle on a new platform, even if you're not going to use it. But a lot of people, business owners and marketing managers didn't even know that they had the handle. So definitely try to reach out to whoever you need to figure out which handles you own. And then once you got that settled, you can go and start exploring, how active are these channels? Were they ever posted on? When's the last time they were posted on? How many followers do we have? Are the followers still engaging with old content? Are people who find the profiles still engaging with old content? Like, are they asking questions about our business, our opening times? Are they asking questions about the product on old posts? You see a lot of that on Facebook, especially because on Facebook you can check into a location, and they have something like that too on Instagram, and you'll see check-ins from customers that have still been coming to your store or your event space, and just nobody's been engaging with them about it. So those are the types of deep dives you want to do. It's almost like being a social archeologist. You kind of have to go digging in the past to answer some questions for the future.
I like that. So yeah, just first find out what you're working with. And one thing you can do is go search yourself. Go search, your business name, any handles that you think you might have, and see what comes up. And you mentioned the location pages. That's so important because we've worked with customers who have multiple locations. So this happens a lot with retail when there's multiple different outlets or locations, and maybe some of them have moved or some of them have closed. Some of them then have been open a real long time. Like there might be people that checked in. And so if there wasn't a location set up properly when they checked in, you could have all of these like stray check-ins that are out there, and it creates a location on the fly. So I've seen that where there's this location check-in weirdness. Or locations that they're like unclaimed pages basically that are out there. And that can even happen on like LinkedIn if somebody puts the company name in wrong, as a place that they've worked and doesn't tag you correctly. I've also seen really large locations, like a really huge park that like if somebody checks in or tags the location, it could pick up businesses all around it. It may not be identified within Google or within any of the social platforms as one specific location. So that can be challenging and kind of messy because then you get all these random pages, and the platforms have gotten better about that. But the older the accounts and the more dead, the more likely you are to maybe have stuff like that showing up too, is what we found.
Yeah, the cave of like secrets starts popping up, and you're just like, wow. Another thing that I've seen is people who had absolutely nothing to do with your business using your brand name on a handle on TikTok or on Instagram, and you had no idea because maybe you never even started a social, or it's been a very long time since you had been on social. And so it's very important to know that, because customers and potential customers do get confused, and you need to know like what they're actually seeing when they search for you on social.
Yeah, we had somebody rip off our YouTube channel. They straight up used our logo and our branding, and they showed it like on the side of a truck. Like, we don't have trucks as a marketing firm. Like, it was a pickup truck that had our robot logo on it. And we did eventually shut that down, but that was super fun. So yeah, searching yourself every once in a while to just, in the context of reviving dead accounts, make sure you do a bit of a broader exploration just to see what's there if you aren't the original creator and if you're not sure what could be out there. It's just always good advice, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, we know we don't want to have dead accounts. We figure out kind of what the baseline is, what you have to work with so far. And then what are the first steps? How do we get started reviving these dead accounts?
Yeah, so you definitely want to look into the time and the resources that you or your team members can actually dedicate. And this is really important because a lot of small businesses or small brands will just be like, that doesn't matter, we're just going to do it. But if you don't try to find the time and the amount that you can dedicate and set aside those time goals weekly or monthly, it kind of turns into like a last minute chore that everyone keeps on passing off and acting like it's just not really that important. So coming up with the small goals about how much time you have, how much resources you can dedicate to social again is a really important way to stay on top of it.
I think that's such great advice. I mean, that's maybe why they're dead in the first place, right? Is like over committing or just not having the resources to apply to it. And so again, because we work with a lot of small businesses, even really big small businesses often don't have a huge marketing team, and it can be hard to juggle all of these. So even if you had the best of intentions, or someone did back when, starting with assessing what you can do, I think is such great advice.
Yeah. And there's no such thing as like too little bit of time. Even if it's just 15 minutes a week, it's better than nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's great advice. And then we've talked also about, starting with like small goals, right? So if you do only have that tiny bit of time and a bunch of dead channels, what would you focus on?
So if you have a little bit of time and a lot of dead channels, I would definitely focus on the channels where you know that you have the potential to have an engaging follower base, or where you know that your customer base is. Like, where is your customer base hanging out? So
I mean, that's how you should pick your channels anyway, right?
Yes,
So
that's
you
how you
may
should
have
pick
a
your
hot
channel.
mess out there, but you want to think about like, where are the people that you're trying to reach? Because each of these channels has different demographics.
Right. Each of these channels might have different demographics, and you definitely want to prioritize the one that has the most followers. Even if your desired follower base isn't there, you can always cross promote them and cross post and make sure to have some synergy between those two and make sure that they're connected and each follower base knows the other one is there, because you might not be able to steal all the followers from the larger account, but you could steal some.
So talk a little bit more in depth about how you do that. Do you post the same thing on both channels, or do you post something different and then mention the other channel? Like, how do you go about that kind of cross promotion specifically?
So for, let's say, an Instagram and a TikTok, posting the same thing is completely fine. TikTok trends and TikTok videos inform a lot of what will be popular on Reels. Mm-hmm. But let's say your two popular channels are LinkedIn and Facebook. Those are different vibe. So it's kind of like a case by case basis. Sometimes specific content will work for both. Sometimes it will only work for LinkedIn, and sometimes it will only work for Facebook. So it's kind of just you knowing kind of like the vibe of your audience there and making sure that what you're cross posting makes sense, just as long as it has the same message for both.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So it makes sense. If you've got a lot of followers somewhere, even if they're not your perfect audience or your perfect channel, there's probably in the Venn diagram of like, all followers and then ideal followers, even if it's a smaller subset, you have something to work with. So keeping that alive while transitioning them to maybe a platform that they're also on that is more appropriate for your business, where you have a bigger pool of people. I love that advice, because it's so hard to build followers now. Like it can be challenging. I mean, I'm old, so I remember when it was real different, but
yeah, and no, it's really difficult. It's something that you really have to get into the weeds about, especially when you're trying to revive something that was dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just, you got to do the legwork.
Okay. Love it. So sometimes, there isn't much to work with and you just need to start from scratch, or maybe it's because there isn't anything, or maybe it's because you need to give stuff up. So, tell us, like, when do you recommend a total reboot and why?
Good question. There's a lot of reasons why someone would need a reboot. One of the biggest ones is if you've rebranded completely and you're heading in a different direction. Another one is if you are selling an entirely different product line of services, you are just pivoting entirely. You've been gone for social for a while, but it's because there was a huge pivot. Now you want to get back into it. So that is a great time to start over from scratch. Another reason is if you're looking back at your old debt accounts and they just don't have the follower base and the demographics that are useful to you anymore. That's another time you want to start from scratch. You might lose some followers in the process, but that's just kind of the growing pains of doing that. And yeah, there's quite a few more reasons, but those are the biggest ones that I've seen in my experience.
Okay. And so because it's a kind of a subset of the question I just asked, like, how often do you need to like actually close the accounts and get a new one? In what specific instances would you recommend shutting them down all the way and starting fresh? That not just reviving the account, starting fresh with what you're doing, but actually closing them.
If you truly know that there is no time and resources to dedicate to social, I would just close them down. I wouldn't have them there just alive in the social arena with without anyone taking care of them, just because people will make their own assumptions about why they're there, and they'll try to use it as a resource or a reference point for your business, and that's just not the case. And you don't want to confuse any users or any potential clients.
That makes sense.
That's a time I would close it down. Another time I would completely close it down is if, you had a massive reputation issue or a massive legal issue that you just, it's time for like a redo. That's another great time to close it down.
And you might be rebranding, like if it's that bad, you might be rebranding anyway.
Yeah.
We've definitely seen some clients that have had some kind of like PR nightmares, even by no fault of their own, but where their pages start to become under attack. And so one tactic can be to just literally take them offline, like you can turn pages off and then you can turn them back on. Not everybody knows that. So you can turn them off just to stop the barrage, especially if they're going into your reviews and things like that you can't really edit or remove. It can tank ratings. And for like a restaurant, that could be it, right? That could practically put you out of business. So if you're under attack, whether it's like legitimate or not, like, if you're being attacked on social media and your reviews are tanking, definitely turn that off and don't give them any way to fan the fire. And then you have to like assess the situation afterwards. If this is something that the business is going to recover from and can recover from, then you can maybe revive those accounts, or you might have to start from scratch, just depending on how bad it got.
Right. And it is something that businesses, small to large, often kind of leave on the back burner. They're going through a reputational issue or a legal issue, and they forget that social's there, and there's a growing social crisis on those pages. And so don't ever forget about social in these moments.
Just pop them off, and then you don't have to manage it, right? And don't forget to take those tags off of your, if you are shutting them down, I guess I should say, if you're truly like closing these accounts, take the tags off of your website, off of the bottom of your email signatures. Like
take those buttons
those
down.
Accounts are dead. That almost, you're directing people to it, and then those accounts are dead. That's real bad optically. Like if you have any of those going on right now, anybody listening, just take those off, bring them back when they're revived, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I see Tangela, do we have some questions from the audience?
We do. We have a couple of questions. Thank you.
Awesome.
So the first one, this participant says, I post, share, and comment nearly every day with our company's social accounts on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. I am not getting much interaction at all and no new leads. What are some ways I can get the followers, engagement, and business leads?
That is a really good question. And that is the question of the year, really. I promise you that everyone has this question weekly, especially in the past year or so. The algorithms have changed a lot this past year. All the social channels have changed a lot this past year. And if you're feeling this way, it might be time for a little strategic pause. And you can do this a couple ways. You can start posting a little less, or you can stop posting for maybe about a month or so and just regroup. And a really great way to figure out if what you're posting or what types of things you're sharing are working is to stalk your competitors a little bit. Stalk your competitors, stalk the people that you aim to be like, social pages that you're like, oh, I would love to be like them. But make sure they're the ones that you see that have high engagement. They have a lot of followers, they have a lot of comments. Now, just because you do this doesn't mean you're going to automatically be able to be like, I'm going to make that content. It's going to be exactly the same, and I'm going to get the same engagement. That's not how it works. I wish it did, but it's not. That's just going to kind of serve groundwork for you. Like, okay, they're posting 15-second videos and it's really working for them. Is that something that I can do in a way that would be actually engaging for my follower base or the people that I want me to follow? Or follow me, sorry. And another thing that people can do is, experiment with what you can. If you know that what's really popular that you're seeing across those pages wouldn't work exactly for your follower base, you can experiment a little bit more and try to not just emulate what successful pages are doing, but try to make it your own and try to see what type of content is really clicking with your audience. And I know it's tricky because you kind of get into this groove where you're already have a plan, you have content buckets, and you're like, it's settled. All I have to do is make it and post it and talk to people and share and do all this. But if it's not working, it's time for a little regroup.
Yeah. So if people aren't engaging, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, like then a couple of things could be happening. How many followers do you have? If you don't have a strategy to grow your followers and to always be in front of new people, then that could be a challenge. And LinkedIn is different from the others. You can have some natural people follow you organically.
Yeah.
You can pay for a premium company page that will automatically invite page visitors to follow the page. So that can be an easy button in terms of growing followers. And, the third and most important tool really for LinkedIn is to have the administrators of the page each month invite people to follow the page. So that is, one of the ways that we have found to boost it. Ideally, if you're posting things that your audience is interested in and wants to hear about, then they will engage with it. But there's a lot to creating posts. The algorithms have changed. They give preference, it depends. Every channel is different, but most of them at this point give preference to video, like short videos are going to play better. The algorithms prefer that. Carousels and groups of images and galleries, those do pretty well too.
Especially on LinkedIn. Yeah.
And even on Instagram, those work pretty well. So I think you have to get real channel specific. And if you're struggling across all of them, maybe pick one channel to start with. And I love going and looking at the competitors to get benchmarks, digging in deep to see if you're gaining followers, experimenting with different types of posts. I think that those are all really good tactics to employ. Tangela, you've got more?
I do if you have time right now.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this one is regarding the posting schedule. So is a firm's posting schedule still relevant for algorithms? Do they reward patterns?
My first instinct is no.
It depends on the channel, but not really.
Not really. They do not reward patterns. They don't reward even posting at a specific time anymore. It used to be for a long time that you would post on a certain day, a certain time, and your content would explode. And not even that is relevant anymore. I think right now, if I'm correct, Instagram actually just changed their algorithm back to focusing on photos again. So posting a lot of photos right now on Instagram really helps. And these changes that these channels make happen literally every 3 to 6 months. And it's like, how am I supposed to keep up with this? You can't. I do this every day, and it's very hard to keep up with the changes. You basically have to follow all of their blogs and newsrooms and get those email lists.
That's great advice. So following the blogs and newsrooms for all the channels that you're active on, and then also the tools. So tools like Sprout Social and Hootsuite, like these tools filter, reporting and posting and everything for so many different users and companies that they feel it immediately when there are changes. And so they tend to be a good secondary resource, because sometimes the platforms want you to know about the algorithm and they'll talk about it. Sometimes the platforms don't want you to know about it. They'll just make a change, and you have to hear from these third parties what's actually happening. So really helps to follow both.
Yeah, this is true. Sometimes they're making changes they're not going to make announcements about. They're not going to tweet about it, anything like that. You'll hear it from a third-party industry resource, someone who's in the know, someone who is talking to leadership all the time. And sometimes not even that. Sometimes you'll hear it months later from leadership in an interview that they did with TechCrunch or something like that.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's why this is happening. How annoying.
Yep. So yeah, I wouldn't say they really reward a specific pattern or a specific schedule at all. It really is right now mostly about just figuring out what your audience is going to react to and just, hoping that resonates with even more of similar minded people out in kind of like the social ethos.
Yeah. So, Tangela, we have some more?
Yes, I have one
I love
more.
it. Please ask questions.
Yes, please ask questions. I will read them aloud for you. And so from this participant, they said, I decided to finally spend money on ads with Instagram and Facebook ads. I am receiving a lot of views on those posts, but still no engagement or leads. With Facebook ads, I receive a lot of messages from bots. Are these ads worth it?
So this is the $1 million question. And we actually treat social advertising as the form, like our digital marketing team handles it kind of somewhat separately from our social media team, because organic social, getting engagement and reactions on posts requires like really understanding the content and what's going to be engaging and how to employ all of the tools within the platform and all of the features from tagging to, whatever, like really being on top of those algorithms and understanding it. It helps when you're doing advertising to know that, but the advertising is really, really about defining the audience and understanding the back end of that platform, how you're creating the audience, how you're creating the budget, how you're locking down the settings, because these platforms are all out to make money. I guarantee you they're going to take your money and spend every drop of it. I am not sure that you're going to be guaranteed any kind of results, unfortunately. So knowing what's engaging from an organic standpoint, like if you're not killing it on organic, your ads probably aren't going to work either, unfortunately. Yeah. Just for what that's worth. There are some new ad types that are like the hardcore lead generation forms and like click to buy and things like that might work better for actual leads, but only if you're really skilled at crafting that kind of like instant demand, instant lead generation type of ad. I don't know if you want to add something to it, Jovana.
Absolutely, yes. Organic informs paid. Always, because nobody wants to know they're being advertised to. And having killer organic and using that as a resource to kind of figure out what might work on paid is just invaluable. So
That's
I would...
a great way to put it. I love that organic informs paid. That's how we treat like Google search also, right? Yeah. So I'm kind of getting a little bit off topic, but like seeing what works in organic and what people are searching for will help you understand how to better craft like paid search ads as well. And so, yeah, I'm thinking that you can just turn on ads and have it work is probably not that that's what you did, but it is very challenging and lots of people experience this. So it takes really studying the craft, studying the platform, studying the channel, the trends, the algorithms,
a lot of A/B testing with the creative as well.
Absolutely. We've had some clients that were adamant, like, oh, we spent a ton on this brand, this agency created all of this work, and they were diehard that like we needed to stay within these specific guidelines and we do branding. So I get brand guidelines. I'm all for it as a general rule, but social media, like you need a little bit of wiggle room within the brand guidelines. They need to be loose enough that you can experiment and you can try different things, because when their required creative failed across like 3 different audiences and all these different platforms we were testing, we just said, just give us X budget, like a small amount of budget, and let us just try some different creative. And we threw a bunch of stuff at the wall, and some of them worked with some of the audiences and some of them didn't work with some of the other audiences. And so testing is always good. And Jovana, you've talked before about like how fleeting social media is. Like it goes so quickly that you can try a lot of things to see what works and then pick the winner and not feel stressed out about it, because it's such a fleeting thing. It's not going to damage your brand to experiment a bit.
No, not at all. Social organic, paid social, both of them, these are the places you want to experiment. You want to experiment a lot and often. You want to get really out of your head about it and just remember that it's very fleeting. People have short memories. And if something is truly god awful, you can delete it and start over again. So yeah, don't be afraid to experiment. This is the place where you want to do it.
Yeah. See what they respond to, what they click on.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions now, Tangela? We've got a couple of things left, but if we have some, I'll take them now.
We do. We have a question about hashtag use and noticing that Instagram has limits on them now. So do you have any advice about using hashtags?
This is actually a hot topic at all times in the social space. Every other year, someone says hashtags are gone, hashtags are dead, they're not useful anymore. I don't agree. I think hashtags are useful. Their usefulness just changes. It evolves over time. So do I believe that people are looking for hashtags to find something or find a specific page or a specific product or anything like that? No, they're not doing that. But hashtags serve a real great purpose for categorizing your own content and making sure that you can find people if they are checking in with that hashtag. If you ask them to use that hashtag for a contest, or you ask them to use that hashtag to have their photo or their video used as UGC on your page. There's lots of ways to use a hashtag still to this day. I just don't think they're useful anymore for people finding your specific content the way people think. People aren't really looking.
I think that's gone back and forth because because we do SEO also, we have found that, and just industry-wide, more and more people are searching within whatever platform they're in, whether it's YouTube or Instagram. I'm Gen X, and we never would have searched, first of all, we didn't have it when I was a kid, but even when I did have Instagram originally, we wouldn't have searched within Instagram to find something that we're looking for. But now there is a bit of a behavior to put general phrases in and to search within whatever platform you're in. So it might be your business name, but hopefully your handle comes up then, right? And they see your profile page. But you could also try typing in your service lines and products and keywords that you think might be relevant. Just go to the platforms and test that. Try typing those in, see what happens. Because Jovana's right. They tell us, oh, they don't matter, but they still do. Right. And sometimes they say oh yeah, we're using them and here's the guidelines, and then they're not playing. So this is something that the channels do tend to screw around with. LinkedIn was really big for a while because they were pulling, I think LinkedIn itself was using those hashtags to pull expertise into different conversations. And it seems like they've dropped that pretty well now. So I don't know. We're still using them. I like the advice of just keep using them. Don't use 57 of them because that defeats the purpose.
I think that is a really good piece of advice. We're still in hashtag use. We're just being more strategic and not just throwing a whole bunch in a post. Use a couple, definitely more on TikTok, LinkedIn, and Instagram. It doesn't really matter on Facebook at all, I don't think.
I don't think so.
And you'll still see people throw them on there, and it's just really confusing.
They might just be posting across all Meta.
They might be.
Yeah, but Facebook, I don't know that they've ever been relevant.
Yeah, I don't think they have. So yeah, just be a little bit more mindful how many you're using and what the purpose is.
Yeah. So numbers wise, I usually say limit to 3 on LinkedIn, if you even have 3 that are relevant. And then Instagram, small handful. People used to pack a whole bunch of them. And now it's definitely 10 or less, maybe 5. What do you think, Jovana?
Definitely less than 10.
Yeah. So somewhere in a smaller range. Hopefully that's helpful. Sorry we don't have all the answers here. And part of it is just because it's changing all the time.
Yeah, but so much fun.
It is. Excellent. So one thing I want to talk about is collaborations, because we haven't touched on that yet. Whether it's just tagging or doing actual collaborations with other people. Like if you have dead accounts or if you have low followers, this can be an incredible way to get engagement and to breathe new life into your account. So, and you've done a lot of work with that, Jovana. Could you talk a little bit about like collaborations and tagging and like how that actually impacts the business?
Yeah, so there are levels now to how involved you can get with your partners on Instagram. Let's see. I think that's like my favorite example because they have the most features for this. So there used to be that you would just tag a brand, and then that would be the end of a partnership or a collaboration. But they started noticing that when a lot of brands were doing that, but it was just creating multiples of the same post in people's feed. And that was just ruining the user experience for people who follow these brands and for people who were on Instagram.
Yeah. Because the creator would like post it and then the brand would share it or post it again or something. So yeah, the duplication was like
right. There'd be 5 brands and they were all hosting an event together and you would see that post 5 times.
Yeah.
So now you have the option to post once from one page and then collaborate with several brands and have them all share that one post on each of their pages.
They have to accept it, right? So whoever
you have to accept it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's you put that brand's name into the collaboration option on Instagram, and before it appears on the others' pages, it has to be accepted by the other collaborators. Once it is, it'll pop up on their feeds. But if that person that's watching it only follows 2 of them, it's still going to only pop up once for them. So nobody's feeds are getting inundated with duplicates of the same post. And the most fun for brands is that it really lessens the amount of work to post these things, because now all of you don't have to do all the copy and the graphics and all that. Just one of you has to, and then has to invite the others to collaborate. And you guys get to share all of that amazing collaboration synergy. So everybody's followers can engage with the post. Everybody's followers can maybe become excited about the other brands and follow those brands as well if they didn't in the past. And it just creates a great way for people to know who you're partnering with. And you make sure you get the news out there about those partnerships.
Yeah, it'll really increase your visibility a lot if you have dead accounts and you have the ability to partner. And you can do this in the specific method Jovana is talking about is what you can do in Instagram, but you can tag people in other platforms, and depending on their settings, it might automatically show on their page, or they may have to reshare it. But like in LinkedIn, they'll get a notification, and then they're more likely to interact. They might share it. So it's definitely worth experimenting with that. If you have dead accounts, I just think it can boost the energy really quickly.
Once you get those dead accounts a little bit more lively, a collaboration or partnership is always recommended. Kind of almost as like a welcome, like, oh my God, they're back. Like, this is a collab, this is a partnership, come follow us. And the way I just described it, it was more for Instagram, but there is a little bit of a type of similar version for that on Facebook, and it still yields the same results. So a lot of reach, a lot of increased views for that post.
And this is really easy peasy if you're doing like posts or reels, but just one warning is if you're doing stories or, something that's fleeting, like you have to, if you're working with someone on a partnership or a collaboration, you want to know when that's happening because it's time sensitive. You have to accept it within the window because the original poster controls the length of time. It's like 24 hours from when that's posted. And so you don't, and I think they're working on changing some of that. There might be a way to like extend stories and stuff in this newest release that I need to look into. But that is a challenge right now, is you got to catch them quick and share them immediately. So some coordination is required for stories.
I would say even on the feed, it's better when you have coordination. Everyone kind of accepts the collaboration within the same day.
Yeah.
So that way you guys all have a chance to comment and talk to each other in the comments, and
That makes
people
sense.
love
Keep the
seeing
energy
that.
going. Yeah.
It's like an energy thing. You'll be fine if you accept it the next day or a couple days later, but you might have missed out on a little bit of the buzz.
Excellent. Okay, well, we're getting close to time. Does anybody have any additional questions? Or Tangela, is there anything else in the QA? We're totally happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Hey, thank you. Yes, so got a question about what are some ways that AI can be used with social media without making the content feel robotic?
Ah,
Ooh, you want to go
yeah.
first?
I have really, really strong opinions about this. So, because we're an agency, we have to be careful. Like, people are paying us for our creative work. So, for me, my opinion is if it looks like it or sounds like it was AI generated, it's a really big problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with using the tools if they speed up your if they speed things up. You can use them for productivity, you can use them for efficiency. I love AI being used for surrealism or to quickly accomplish things with photos or videos. These are great tools. I think you should use them. I think where I'm seeing it used poorly is like the Chat GPT social posts. Like, oh, good Lord, you can tell when it was written by Chat GPT, and the platforms can too. So I think LinkedIn said that they're going to start punishing that.
They did say that. Yep.
Just recently, like within the last couple of weeks or something. So be really, really cautious. You've got to really train your tools to have an authentic voice and to have real content. Just if you type into Chat GPT or Claude, like, write 30 social posts about our services based on our website and whatever, like, it will write them for you and it will sound like absolutely everyone else. So you still have to do that hard creative work of, figuring out, like, what should we be saying? What are the topics? What is our voice? How do we want to come across? What is our brand? And then, I could just go off. So sorry. I'm going to let Jovana talk for a second because it is a hot topic for me. Like, but use it for productivity, not for creativity, I guess, is the differentiation.
Yeah, and I have the other side of that where I agree, right? Where like we should absolutely use it for productivity and having tools that make things go faster and smoother for us. But I personally am not a fan of using AI for the creative or for relying on it solely for social copy, because you will end up sounding and looking like everyone else. And it's very cold and inhuman. And to me, that's like anti-social media. So
it's the opposite of what it's supposed to be.
Right.
It's supposed to be authentic voices and us having conversations. And if you just put a bunch of AI slop up there, then it's not happening.
Yeah. But AI is an amazing tool for helping you develop and modify a social media strategy. I would definitely, especially for small businesses, definitely lean on it to help you change your strategy, grow your strategy, experiment with your social strategy, and lean on it more that way instead of leaning on it for like creative purposes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I like to use it for research. So you can go say, here's a list of my top competitors, go assess their social media accounts and deliver back top performing posts, or give me a spreadsheet that shows all my top competitors, how many followers they have, which channels they're on. Like, you may have to pay for extra credits, or you have to, if you're using Chat GPT, it doesn't want to do it. You have to like make it like, no, I want all of them. And I want this whole table filled in completely. For some reason, it just wants to give you like a small handful and like stop halfway. From like, even with a paid version that I had, I was not getting the research out of it. I had to really beat it up a little bit, which is crazy to like beat up the robots. But I do think that it can be really great for research, because this is the research we used to do manually, and it would take forever to go to each competitor's account and scroll back through all their past posts to look for what was engaging. Like, you can send a robot to do that task and get all that information back really quickly. Then all you have to do is click on them and go straight to those top performing posts. That's awesome. That's really helpful. Also, to just get a quick overview. So the kind of the prompt that I've used that I create for competitive research is to deliver research in a table format with the competitor's name in the first column, the channel, the number of followers, examples of the top performing posts with links to those posts, like what's going well on these accounts, what's not working. And it gives kind of, those responses are dicey. Like, anytime you're asking AI for an opinion, you're going to get a strong opinion, but it may not be a good one. So I kind of differentiate between, like, I like having it go get facts. I don't like getting its opinions for what that's worth.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
One thing we have found that's really great is if you are a company that is already producing a lot of content, whether it's videos or presentations or blogs or white papers, that's your content already. That is authentically you. So if you can take that video and throw that at AI and say, split this up into 6 social posts, or, turn this into an email, or, it's actually very good and very efficient, especially if you say, don't put in a bunch of like punchy language, like, please use my voice, use my words to the greatest extent possible. Maybe one interesting headline or hook or something like that at the beginning. Tell it what call to action you want it to use. I think that it's really great at taking existing content and chunking it up.
Like you said, there is a way to give it prompts that will keep it more authentic, especially if it knows your voice and tone. Even with that, though, you're still going to have to really look at it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that it doesn't sound like a disingenuous, cold robot type of voice.
You got to train your robots. Yeah. And then you got to keep them in line. And I find that like chat drifts a little bit more, and Claude tends to stay a little bit more on point for what that's worth. Just in my assessment of the two biggies.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. In my experience as well.
Okay, excellent. I want to be sensitive to time. We've got about 5 minutes left. Does anybody else have any questions? We're so happy to give you our hot take on anything under the sun before we wrap up.
I think that's all we have right now.
Okay, excellent. Well, you guys, Jovana, first of all, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Yeah, I loved it. I hope to be back sometime.
Absolutely. And thank you to our guests for joining the live recording and for the excellent questions in the QA. So on our next episode, I'm going to be talking to Belinda Goodmanson. She is our creative director here at Robot, and we're going to be talking about storytelling in a world of sound bites. Attention spans have become so much smaller, and so how do you get and grab people's attention and hold their attention when everyone's moving so fast? So we're recording that live on Thursday, July 16th at noon Central US time. That's going to be live on Eventbrite, and you can register for that right now. It's already up. As I mentioned earlier, we have a link to a brief survey in the chat, so please take a moment to give us some feedback. I'd love to know how you feel about how we did, if there's any other topics you'd like to hear. As you can see, we are real people taking real questions and wanting to make sure that we're answering the pressing questions that you have. So finally, we don't have permission to message you outside of Eventbrite unless you opt in. So the best way to stay in touch is actually to join our mailing list. That way we can notify you of upcoming episodes and also give you access to articles and tools that aren't available through Eventbrite. So follow us on Eventbrite, of course, if this is your preferred platform, and you can also find past episodes on YouTube. So it takes us about a week or so to get those live. And we will, email these out to you within about 10 days. I think that's our Eventbrite window. But we'll also put a link to my link tree, just because when the Zoom shuts down, you're going to lose access to all these links. So grab them quick, or if you click on my link tree in the chat, it'll have all of these different ways to connect. So you have a little bit more time after we shut down. But really appreciate all of you joining us. Again, thank you for the questions, and hope to see you next time on the CMO Scoop.